And good morning, everybody. Again, great seeing you guys here. It's the episode 16 of MakerBot Chats. I'm just going to give a few minutes for everybody else to join. And as you saw in the title, today's theme is going to be basically CloudPrint, software that we introduced just yesterday. We're really excited to be bringing this to you guys. I think that we sort of talked at length about what it is yesterday, some of the features, but now, today we get to have a more laid back conversation on the specifics of it. I will be doing another demonstration on how it works, how does it connect. I have here two of the printers, so a Method X, a Sketch. We'll be talking about how do they connect to the system, and ultimately how do you get the most of it, right? First things first, my name is Felipe, Creative Director at MakerBot. And about CloudPrint, right? As you know, we create not only the 3D printers themselves, but also the slicing software that will run those printers. The slicing software, as always, it's completely free for you guys to use. Even if you don't have a Method or a MakerBot at all, you can still test it out and you can see what some of the features are. And until lately, most of our software was completely, basically, I would say desktop-based, right? You would need to run it on your computer. The big difference with CloudPrint is that it takes everything that we've learned so far and puts it into the cloud, as the name suggests, right? That basically allows you to monitor, connect, print, queue, manage your printers and your printing process entirely online, which is, I think, rather exciting. And it sounds like a mouthful, but I'll get to the specifics in a second and why I'm personally am really excited about the benefits of it and why we think that you guys will enjoy it as well. So first off, I'll just run a quick video for you guys to see the specifics of it, kind of the quick overview, 30 seconds, and I'll be right back after that. So there it is, kind of like the quick summary, right? Everything that you would need from preparing your print to actually having the print at hand, and specifically relevant today to distribute the teams to this idea of working from home, whether it's at school, at the office. But I think it's becoming increasingly relevant for the MakerBot team internally on how do we develop the products. And we hope that that's also going to reflect on how you guys get to benefit from it, right? I'll go ahead and get started with the demo, and for that I have, it's going to be, a whole process of how do you connect to it, how do you use it, and as I was saying, what are some of the most relevant features. And I'll be also touching on some of the questions that we got yesterday yesterday morning, as we were doing the first demo of the software, right? So this is going to be your welcome window. It's going to ask you for your credentials. You can use your existing MakerBot credentials. If you don't have one, you can create them. You can also just SSO with Google and use that to log in. And when you log in for the first time, you'll be welcomed by a screen that looks a little bit like this. This is what we call our Managed Printers tab, right? It's going to show you all of the printers that you have in your, what we're calling the workspace. In this case, I have a Method X, and a Sketch. As I was saying before, the Method X and the Sketch are located physically here. The Method is in one of my coworkers' house, down in Brooklyn. And the idea here is that you're able to see this relationship of many to many. So many users to many printers, and it doesn't really matter where the users are or where the printers are. That's the main promise behind this, right? Being able to monitor and access multiple printers at once by multiple users. And not only by multiple users, but also by multiple user types, right? But before we get into the user types and whatnot, I'll just go and do a quick overview of the interface, right? First off, the leftmost menu, I guess, it's going to give you, the different print models that, being able to prepare models for printing, show you the printers that you have access to, show you your workspace, show you the members, people who have access to said workspace, and overall account and workspaces settings, right? And let's start with the very basic elements. So getting into a specific printer, in this case my Method X, which is idle, and seeing what's the information that you're getting from it, right? So the first thing that you'll notice is that we're getting the standard webcam preview, the status of the printer, idle right now, and also this sort of timeline of print jobs going from future state to past state. So the queue, basically the jobs that have been submitted to be printed in later on in time. The current state, the printing now, which right now it's empty because the printer is idle, and the recent history state, right, which is going to summarize or show me all of the files that I have printed before, what's the status of them, when were they submitted, the actual print time, and if they were completed or not. So let's go ahead and do the first very, I guess the most important features that you would expect with the slicing software, starting a new print. I'll just go ahead and hit new print. It's defaulting to my MakerBot printer, which is the one that I have right here. I'll go ahead and choose a file using one of my test files that we've been doing or using for our material testing protocol. It's going to upload that STL, right? And once it's done with that, let me just switch windows. So it's going to pop a new window where you will be able, let me just switch over to that window. There we go. Where you will be actually prompted with an interface very similar to MakerBot Print, right? It's basically offering you the same settings, the same access that you would expect or that you had in the past with MakerBot Print. Just being able to orbit your file, see it, orient it. There's my STL. It's already plated on my build plate. You also see the square that represents the perch tower. And of course, here on the right, you see all of the high-level settings that you could access, right? From the print modes, balance, solid, the types of support that you may want to use, even exposing the extruder, the materials, the scale, how to arrange the file itself. And of course, you can always access the under the hood settings that you had access to before, right? Everything that was offered in MakerBot Print is also present here in CloudPrint. From the quick settings to the printer settings, changing the chamber temperature, selecting to have or not to have a perch tower, making changes to the extruder. Everything that you would want to change on the slicing protocol is also available here, and you can go crazy with it, right? Of course, as always, we start with our balance settings. That's kind of what we recommend. That's the quick, let's just get done with the print and start printing for MakerBot. And but you could also go under the hood and select anything, any changes that you might want to do to the file preparation, the infill, the floors, the speed, etc. Now, once I'm happy with the settings, which I won't change right now just because, well, I'm pretty much just printing this in our standard mode, I can go ahead and hit print preview. That is going to trigger the slicing process. And here's the first interesting thing that happens with CloudPrint, right? The slicing process is happening on the cloud. It's not happening in your computer, which makes sure that you're not using any local resources, right? That's great because sometimes if you have a very large print, then you might not want to compromise your computer's performance. So everything here is being taken care of on the cloud. You don't have to sacrifice any resources of the computer here, and you get just the preview once the slicing is done. So here my preview is basically showing me this blue shaded element. It's not a shading though. If I zoom in really closely, you can see how this is only all lines, and those lines literally represent the lines of filament that will be deposited in order to create my file, right? I can both look at it via the orbit mode, like I'm doing right now, or have a layer preview, which is going to present, once I hit play, a layer by layer playback of basically the process and the steps that will be taken by the machine in order to print my file. I'll print it once again just because I really like that animation. It's just going to show me the slices, how it goes from from bottom to top, and basically making sure that I am happy with the result and with what I'm seeing on how the software sliced my part. Once I'm happy with it, as I was saying, I can just go ahead and hit Q here. There we go, Q. And the same idea. It's going to immediately export the file to my queue, and then once it's on the queue, it'll ask me to confirm which printer I want to print it into, and if I want to print it right away or if I want to wait. This process will change, the time that it takes will change depending on the size of your file, of course. Okay, we're back here. And as you can see, it's already selecting my printer, XBot, my file, and I can go ahead and hit start print. And in just a second, you'll see behind me, let me switch over to my trusty webcam here. So in just a second, you'll see, there we go, the icon already changed, and now the build plate should be racing. There we go, right? It's kind of neat, a little bit of magic happening there for me, at least. I know that we were able to do that before. We were able to just start files remotely from MakerBot Print. The big difference here is that you're able to monitor multiple files at once, right? You can see the file starting, but the idea is that you can actually monitor a fleet of printers, right? And it's not only useful for controlling multiple printers, but also when you have just one printer. But if you picture, another teammate being located elsewhere, they could also be having access to this printer. And more importantly than the printer itself is the printing queue, right? So what you see here on the top section of my screen. It's going to show me all of the other files that have been submitted to this printer, and allow me to just reprioritize them. For example, I can just drag and drop these files, move them around, and make sure that I have control over which file is going to be printed next, whether it's a new file like I just did, or one of the files that have been submitted in the past to my queue. I'll just pause this for a second. There we go. Pausing that print. Just to avoid any issues with the printer right now. And I'll go back to my workspace print jobs tab. This is actually, another view that you can get for on your printer and on your files, basically showing a similar idea of this chronological order from future to past, showing me my queue, the printing now element, and the recent history element. This is going to summarize this actually take all of the printed files that have been submitted to this workspace and show them, all of them at once, right? Regardless of which printer took them, regardless if it was my Method X here, the Sketch, the other method that we have in Brooklyn, it's just going to show me all of the print jobs at once. And if I go back to the managed printers, again, it's just a different view, but this one is more focused on the printers themselves. But I also have the control over the queue, right? So I can just change the order in which these files will be printed. I can just hit start new prints if I wanted to. Like in this case, I can see already in the webcam that this print has not been removed from the build plate, so I won't start a new print. And I can add new prints to idle printers like the Sketch that I have right here, right? Now, regarding access to that printer, there's 3 types of access that you may give people in your team, and it's shown here in the members tab. So I just go here to the leftmost menu, and the 4th icon, the members icon, will take me to this menu, right? Showing me the members that I have. So in this case, there's me, there's Vishnu, and there's Sean, both of them working at MakerBot. And I can also decide what type of users will they be. They can be either admins, they can be members, or they can be submitters. So admins will have full control over the workspace. They can add members, add printers, remove printers, change the queue, basically everything that I've showed you guys so far. The members will have access to everything that I've just said except the user addition process, right? So they will not be able to add new users in. And the submitters, which I think is one of the most interesting roles here, they will only have access to submit files, right? So they will only be able to send files over without necessarily selecting which printer they will be printing on, when will they be printing on. They will not be able to affect the queue. And this is really useful, I think, for users such as, let's say, contractors, suppliers, or in the classroom space. If you think about having multiple kids in a classroom and many of them submitting their print jobs to the teacher, right? You don't necessarily want them to have full access and control over the, let me stop this for a second. You don't want them to have full access over the printers or the print ecosystem. You just want to receive the files and then later on decide when and where in which printers you will be printing those files, right? So I think it's a really useful option there. And there's a fourth option that doesn't include access to the platform at all, which is basically, here if I go to workspace, the fourth option is going to be printing via submission link. This is also really interesting. It's fairly similar to the submitter role, but in this case, people don't even have access to the environment at all. All they get is this link that's generated. I'll do it again. So you go to your workspace print jobs here, you hit print submission link on the top right, and it's going to automatically generate a link that you can copy and share with people. I'll go ahead and open a new tab here, paste that link, and show you guys what that link looks like, right? All that link shows you is going to be a submission portal that will allow you to submit one model, right? In this case, it's asking for your name. Just say again, let's different name. So I don't know, Tom. And it's asking for your STL, so the STL file that you want to print. I'll go ahead and select one of my files here, the camera rig. Also, of course, super important to detect that you're not a robot. And then that's it. You just hit submit your model. That's all a foreign user or a user outside of your organization, outside of your workspace needs to do, right? There's nothing beyond that. And the great thing about this is that you're not losing any type of control over your workspace, but at the same time, you're granting and allowing any user outside to just submit files that you can later on, I'll go back to what happened here in my CloudPrint management tool. So later on, you'll be able to see those files being submitted and actually manage them and determine where do you want them to be printed at. There we go. Here's the Tom file that I just submitted, right? And as you can see, the files that were submitted via a submission link will have this link icon to the left of them, and they all come with, you know, the file name, the time at which they were submitted. Importantly, the printer is unassigned, so that means that you still need to define where will this file be printed, because again, we're giving access to a third party, and we're trying to give them as easy an experience as possible, but at the same time, as much control for you as possible to define, well, do I want to print this or not? Where do I want to print it, in which printer? And specifically, the settings that I want to use. So that's another really important thing, right? The users that submit prints through the submission link don't need to know anything at all about the system, about the slicing process, about the printers themselves. They're just submitting the STL. So that makes the process way easier for them. And then all that you need to do is hit preview, or actually, here we go. To prepare your file, I'll go ahead and change, give me 1 second, change my window just to show you what that looks like. Oops, sorry. There we go. So the new window that pops open once I hit that prepare file, it's going to be pretty standard. Basically what we saw before, it's showing my file, or the file that this Tom character submitted, already played it. And the same idea, right? It's going to ask me to select a printer. I can go ahead and select my sketch printer that I had talked to you guys about before. And again, I could be changing all of the settings of this file. I could be just, you know, changing the support types, accessing the expert settings, or just hit approve. And that's all there is, right? I got the file from Tom. I was able to just make slight changes, decide which printer is going to be receiving that file and which printer is going to be printing that file. And similar process, right? It's going to be sliced on the cloud. And once the slicing process is done, it's going to just push it back to my workspace environment and allow me to select which printer it's going to be printing it and at which time, right? In this case, since I already selected a printer, it's just going to throw it right away into the queue. So I'm back here, asking me for a printer. Just since it was sliced for a sketch, it already defaults to the sketch print. And I can go ahead and either add it to the queue or start the print. Since I know that this printer is not busy right now, I can just go ahead and start the print. And that's it, right? Now I have this file that's getting ready to be sliced. There was no real need for me to interact with Tom. It was simply submitted. He didn't really have to interact with the printer, and I still have full control over my platform. So crucially, Tom doesn't need to know anything about the platform. I don't need to specifically, manage it the way that Tom submits the file. And it's all the control rests on me, the admin, or the one of the members in the print space to actually go ahead and start the prints, which is what's happening right now. Let's see what. Oh, right. Final element here, right? On the workspace, in a similar way than what we were seeing with the print tab, right, or printer tab, you also see this chart showing you from future state to past state, so the queue, the printing now, and the recent history states. However, the very interesting thing right here is the recent history state, because as you can see with this 3 meatball icon, or what we call the meatball icon, you can also download a CSV file that will show all of the prints that have been completed in this workspace, and enable you to sort of get access to in-depth analytics of how have you used your printers, your print space, how are users connecting to your printers, and it looks something like this. So this is the type of file that you will be exporting that the platform generates, the CSV file that the platform generates. So again, if I go here to my Workspace Print Jobs tab, and then the Recent History tab, click on the meatball icon, download full workspace history as CSV, you'll get a file, an Excel file that looks like this. It shows you who submitted the files, when was it submitted, the status of it, which printer actually printed it, the time, the material that was used, the support that was used, all of the raw data that you can have access to, and that you can ultimately interpret in many ways, right? This is the very powerful idea, and this is something that is definitely coming to CloudPrint in in the next iteration, which is going to be more analytics. At this time, we give you access to all of the data, but in the future, we are going to start doing some of the analysis for you as well. And that analysis could be something as, who's printing what, how many jobs have been completed per user, how many jobs each user is submitting to the different printers, what's the material that you've used. I think that you could also imagine a scenario where it enables you to make it easier to bill customers for the print time, because you actually have already collected the information on, okay, this is how much time I printed or I used printing your files, or this is how much material I used printing your files. So it makes it easier for you to track the utilization, the materials, anything that you would want to know out of MakerBot Print. I'll open the floor for questions right now, and I know that we had quite a few from yesterday and the conversation that we had yesterday. So I'll start with some of those, and give me 1 second. All right. I'll start with some of the questions that we collected yesterday during the first demo, but also on that right-hand corner on YouTube, you can also submit the questions right now, and Alejandra is back stage actually collecting all of those questions, and I'll be addressing those as we go. So let's start here. Will CloudPrint be available for prior models of Method or just new models? So any method is able to use CloudPrint, right? Not only any method, it's also any Rep Plus, any C18, I think the Mini is also added here. I'm not sure about the Mini, but for sure, Rep Plus, C18, Method, Method X, Method Carbon Fiber Edition, the Sketch. So all of the printers that have been released in the past, I would say, like 4 years, will be included or are supported by CloudPrint. Can you disable some features or limit them for other collaborators? So yes, 100%. That was kind of the roles that I was showing you guys before, right? If I go back here to the users, once I've added users here, I can go ahead and edit the member type and change people from admin to member to submitter, right? Depending on the access that I want to give them. It's that easy, actually. Is there a way to share an estimated print cost for the client? Yes, as I was showing you guys before, all you would need to do is actually go ahead and download the CSV file and basically get the material usage, and with that, charge them depending on how you want to charge them on the material that you use to print their parts. Does someone have to physically turn the printer on even though sent wirelessly? Yes. So the printer has to be on and connected for you to connect to it, right? Otherwise, it's just not possible to turn it on remotely. This is all both for safety and I guess for environmental reasons. You don't want to have weird access to your printer. So yeah, the printer has to be on and connected for you to submit jobs and to control it remotely. What's the difference between CloudPrint and the previous MakerBot Cloud? It's very similar. If anything, MakerBot Cloud actually grew in capabilities, right? Many of these features more thought towards team collaboration and multiple people accessing the print is what actually becomes the difference between CloudPrint and MakerBot Cloud. And actually, MakerBot Cloud now becomes CloudPrint with this enhanced set of features. Is there a cost for using CloudPrint? No, this is completely free, and actually you can go ahead and try it out today. If you want to learn more about it, you can go to makerbot.com/cloudprint. You will see that's the website, and it'll also have access to the actual slicing tool. So the slicing tool is completely free. You can go ahead and try it yourselves. I can show you right now, just here, makerbot.com/cloudprint. Enter. You'll be thrown into the actual CloudPrint website. You can see a quick overview of all of the features, and you can also hit Test CloudPrint. That'll open the CloudPrint window, and you can go ahead and test it. Even if you don't have any printers, you can try it on and see what it looks like. Print parts are often prototypes and sensitive data. How secure is the connection via cloud? So yes, there's actually, regarding the standards, I don't have a specific terminology for them, but the files are definitely encrypted, and it's something that we definitely are taking very seriously. There's also the possibility to create your own offline version of CloudPrint. You would just need to contact one of our sales representatives, and they will walk you through the process of having sort of same connected experience, but only accessible via the secure network, say, on your organization. Can my printer overlap into work groups? Yes. So you can have a printer living in multiple workspaces and being shared between multiple workspaces if that's what you need. It basically just will show the queue of the print. That's where the queue of the printer becomes really important, right? That's the connection point between both the printer and the organization, because you can be seeing multiple workspaces, and you will see the queue from multiple workspaces at once in a single printer. How can CloudPrint be used for those doing small-scale manufacturing to scale up when needed? Ideally, I would like to utilize CloudPrint to print parts and have them sent to me to cover search demand. Yeah, so CloudPrint right now, it's not a cloud marketplace. It's definitely something interesting, right? But it's right now tailored specifically to individual users. It's not a service that we are providing, right? We are not giving, opening our printers and giving access to people to print on them. But it's definitely something interesting to look into in the future. And it's something that you could definitely implement, right? So if you think about using your downtime of your printer and opening it up to other users, you can definitely post that submission link and allow people from outside of your organization to just send print files, and you can charge them later on, right? So that's a interesting business idea right there. So are there any checks to make sure that build plate are clear so that we don't accidentally build over top an existing build? Yes, you actually have to confirm in CloudPrint, and that's where the webcam becomes really useful. Once you're starting a new print job, it's going to ask you to confirm that the build plate is cleared. And I just did that with all of the files that were sent before. But if you have a printer with a messy build plate, you will have both the webcam to confirm it, and you also need to first, once the file is done printing, you will have to check off the fact that the printer has been cleaned up and cleared and is ready to use by the next user. Will this require a firmware update on my Method X? Not at all. I would suggest that firmware is kept up to date, because we continuously make improvements in the platform. But yeah, it doesn't require any updates on the firmware for now. It just requires that you have the printer connected, and that basically you have it also online in the CloudPrint service. And with that, I think I'm going to start wrapping things up. As always, thank you guys so much for joining. I apologize for this dual window thing. It's just because we have one webcam and then the other webcam that we usually use to have these multiple angles. Today we didn't need that, but we're really excited about CloudPrint. We hope that you will enjoy it too. And again, I seriously invite you guys to go ahead and check that link, makerbot.com/cloudprint to learn more, and also makerbot.com/chats to ask us any questions, or hello@MakerBot, Felipe@MakerBot, and our social media accounts as usual, @MakerBot, Twitter and Instagram. And if you like this video, to give it a thumbs up. It always helps us to know what are the subjects that you like the most. If you have ideas for future topics and future episodes, do leave them in the comment section below. And as always, thank you guys for joining, and again, happy printing. I'll see you next time. Bye.